The Cabinet gives final approval to the draft of Ansar Battalion Act 2023 with a provision of death penalty as the maximum punishment for committing mutiny and provocation of rebellion. Indonesia rolls out red carpet to welcome Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin as he arrived in Jakarta to join the 43rd ASEAN Summit and 18th East Asia Summit. Outline placed by BNP for Rohingya repatriation is ridiculous. It is nothing but part of conspiracies to deepen crisis, says Obaidul Qadir. Election train will not wait for anyone. Elections will be held on time, says Dr. Hassan Mahmood. Professional organizations express concerns, saying open letter by foreigners for stopping trial. Dr. Muhammad Yunus is threat to Bangladesh's sovereignty and judiciary. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan discuss ways to revive Black Sea grain deal with no breakthrough. And Nepal set a 231-run winning target for India in their second and final group stage match of Asia Cup 2023. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News at 10 on BTV and BTV World. I am Roya Zaveen. You have just heard the headlines, now news in details.
অনেক আন্দোলনের মধ্যে থেকে আপনাদের জন্ম, অনেক সংগ্রামের মধ্যে দিয়ে আপনাদের জন্ম। আপনাদের বারবার মোকাবেলা করতে হয়েছে শোষক শ্রেণীকে, আপনাদের বারবার মোকাবেলা করতে হয়েছে বাংলাদেশের একদল মীর জাফরকে। 25 বছর পাকিস্তানিরা বাংলাকে শোষণ করতে পারত না, যে বাংলাদেশের একদল লোক তাদের সঙ্গে হাত না মিলাতো।
The Cabinet has given the final approval to the draft of Ansar Battalion Act 2023 with a provision of death penalty as the maximum punishment for different crimes including mutiny and provocation for rebellion. The approval came from the Cabinet meeting held with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in the chair at Prime Minister's office in Dhaka today. According to the proposed law, there will be 2 courts to try the internal crimes of Ansar Battalion members. One is a summary Ansar Battalion court to be headed by an additional director, and another is a special Ansar Battalion court to be headed by the Director General. Serious crimes like committing mutiny, instigating for revolt, creating ground for rebellion, engaging in conspiracy will be tried in the special Ansar Battalion court. The maximum punishment for such crimes is the death penalty. Besides, other serious crimes related to the punitive provisions ranging from life imprisonment to minimum 5 years of imprisonment will be tried in the special court. Earlier, the Cabinet approved in principle the draft law in March this year. The drafts of Overseas Employment and Expatriates Act Amendment 2023 and Bangladesh Shilpokala Academy Act Amendment 2023 were also given final approval at the Cabinet meeting. The Cabinet gave in principle approval to the draft of Father of the Nation Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman University of Science and Technology Narayanganj Act 2023, Satkira University of Science and Technology Act 2023, National Academy of Primary Education Act 2023, Plastic Industry Development Policy 2023, and Internship in Government Institutions Policy 2023. Besides, a number of proposals were approved at the meeting, including proposal to form an agreement between Bangladesh and Japan titled Feni Solar Power Company Limited, a proposal to sign a memorandum of understanding between Bangladesh and Jordan on cooperation in the manpower sector, and a proposal to celebrate World Teachers' Day on October 5 every year instead of National Teachers' Day. After the meeting, Cabinet Secretary Mahbub Hussain briefed the reporters at the Secretariat. He said Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina directed the authorities concerned to identify and take legal actions against those who go abroad with fake certificates and their abettors. Indonesia has given the red carpet reception to Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin as he arrived in Jakarta to join the 43rd ASEAN Summit and 18th East Asia Summit. A regular flight of Biman Bangladesh Airlines carrying the president along with his spouse Dr. Rebecca Sultana and other entourage landed at Soekarno-Hatta International Airport in the afternoon. Indonesian Environment and Forest Minister Siti Nurbaya received the president at the airport. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen was present there. The president was given guard of honor on his arrival. The Bangladesh president will attend the ASEAN Summit on 5th September and the East Asia Summit on 7th September at the Jakarta Convention Center at the invitation of the President of Indonesia and ASEAN Chair for 2023, Joko Widodo. Bangladesh president will have separate bilateral meetings with his Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo and some other heads of state and government. Earlier, President Mohammad Shahabuddin left Dhaka for Indonesia to join the 43rd ASEAN Summit and 18th East Asia Summit this morning. A regular flight of Biman Bangladesh Airlines carrying the president departed Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport for Jakarta at 8:30 a.m. Liberation War Affairs Minister A.K.M. Mozammel Haq, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Cabinet Secretary, Chiefs of the three services and high civil and military officials saw the president off at the airport. Jatiyo সংসদ passed Bangladesh Small and Cottage Industries Corporation Bill 2023 and Family Court Bill 2023 today. Industries Minister Nurul Majid Mahmud Humayun and Law Justice and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anisul Haq introduced the bills at the House. Sitting of the House resumed with Speaker Dr. Shirin Sharmin Chaudhry in the House. Bangladesh Economic Zone Amendment Bill 2023 was also passed at the Jatiyo সংসদ today. Minister responsible for Prime Minister's Office on সংসদ Affairs, A.K.M. Mozammel Haq, introduced the bill. Later, the bill was sent to the committee concerned of the Parliament to report back after scrutiny. Meanwhile, Sand Quarry and Soil Management Amendment 2023, Land-Related Crime Resistance and Remedy Bill 2023, and Land Reform Bill 2023 were introduced at the Jatiyo সংসদ today. National Identity Registration Bill 2023 and Bangladesh Dairy Development Bill 2023 were also presented at the House. Later, the bills were sent to the committee concerned to report back after scrutiny. Besides reports of some Parliamentary Standing Committees and Parliamentary Standing Committees reports on some bills including Land Development Tax Bill 2023 were tabled at Jatiyo সংসদ today. Former President Mohammad Abdul Hamid witnessed the সংসদ session today. Later, Deputy Speaker Mohammad Shamsul Haq Tuku conducted the সংসদ session. Sitting of the House will resume in the afternoon tomorrow. Awami League General Secretary and Road Transport and Bridges Minister Obadul Kader has said the outline placed by BNP for Rohingya repatriation is ridiculous and it is nothing but a part of conspiracies to deepen the crisis. In a statement issued today, Obadul Kader said the turmoil in the hill tracts began during the regime of BNP's founder, Ziaur Rahman. Bangabandhu's daughter Sheikh Hasina hoisted the flag of peace there, he added. The Awami League General Secretary said the Rohingya crisis began during the rule of Zia Rahman. He said Bangladesh has taken all kinds of diplomatic measures to end the Rohingya crisis, and the initiatives of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina are praised in the international arena. In the statement, the Awami League General Secretary said BNP wants to go to power with the help of foreigners, ignoring people of the country. Information and Broadcasting Minister and Awami League Joint General Secretary Dr. Hassan Mahmood has said the election train will not wait for anyone and elections will be held on time. He said this while replying to questions from journalists after attending a program marking the first anniversary of the publication of the Doinik Bangla in a new form in Dhaka today.
বিএনপি তো চায় দেশের নির্বাচনী ব্যবস্থাটাকে ভণ্ডুল করতে, যেটি 14 সালে চেষ্টা করেছিল, ব্যর্থ হয়েছে। এইবার সেই চেষ্টা করলে জনগণ কঠোর হস্তে দমন করবে, আর আমরা আওয়ামী লীগ বসে থাকব না। বাংলাদেশে বেশিরভাগ মানুষ আওয়ামী লীগকে সমর্থন করে, সুতরাং বাংলাদেশের সেই মানুষগুলো বসে থাকবে না। আর নির্বাচনের ট্রেন কারো জন্য দাঁড়াবে না। 14 সালের নির্বাচনের ট্রেন যেমন কারো জন্য দাঁড়ায়নি, 18 সালের নির্বাচনে বিএনপি পাদানিতে বসে নির্বাচনের ট্রেনে চড়েছিল। আমরা আশা করব এবার নির্বাচনের ট্রেনে তারা ভালোভাবে বসবে, আর তারা যদি নাও চড়ে নির্বাচনী ট্রেনে, নির্বাচন যথাসময়ে অনুষ্ঠিত হবে ইনশাল্লাহ। যেভাবে সিটি কর্পোরেশন নির্বাচনে জনগণ ব্যাপকভাবে অংশগ্রহণ করেছে, আগামী নির্বাচন যদি তারা বর্জন করে, আশা করব তারা অংশগ্রহণ করবে। যদি বর্জনও করে, জনগণের ব্যাপক অংশগ্রহণ থাকবে ইনশাল্লাহ। বিএনপি যখন ক্ষমতায় ছিল তখন যে রোহিঙ্গারা এসেছিল তাদেরকেই তো তারা পরিপূর্ণভাবে ফেরত পাঠাতে পারেনি, আর এখন তারা রোহিঙ্গা ফেরত পাঠাবে সেমিনার করে বেড়াচ্ছেন। এবং প্রকৃতপক্ষে তারা চায় না যে এই রোহিঙ্গা সমস্যার কোনো সমাধান হোক, কারণ তাদের সাথে যে জঙ্গি গোষ্ঠী আছে বিএনপির সাথে, সেই জঙ্গি গোষ্ঠীর জন্য রোহিঙ্গা ক্যাম্পগুলো একটি উর্বর ক্ষেত্র হয়েছে সেখান থেকে রিক্রুট করার। এই জন্য ওনারা আসলে প্রকৃতপক্ষে চায় না এই সমস্যার সমাধান হোক। আমরা চেষ্টা করছি এবং আমরা কূটনৈতিকভাবেই চেষ্টা করছি এবং অনেক অগ্রগতিও আছে, ইনশাআল্লাহ এই সমস্যার সমাধান হবে।
Earlier, Information and Broadcasting Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood said media will definitely highlight failures and criticisms, but it is also the sacred responsibility of the media to highlight the achievements of the state, society and government.
নেতৃত্বে দেশ যেভাবে এগিয়ে যাচ্ছে, কেউ স্বীকার করুক আর না করুক, আজকে মানুষের মাথাপিছু আয় ভারতকে ছাড়িয়েছে। আমরা সমস্ত সূচকে, মানব উন্নয়ন সূচক, সামাজিক সূচক, অর্থনৈতিক সূচক, স্বাস্থ্য সূচক, সমস্ত সূচকে আমরা পাকিস্তানকে 2014-15 সালে অতিক্রম করেছি। আমরা যখন মাথাপিছু আয়ে ভারতকে ছাড়ালাম, তখন ভারতে এই নিয়ে আলোচনার ঝড় উঠল, কিন্তু দুঃখজনক হলো সত্য, আমাদের দেশে প্রশংসার ঝড় উঠে নাই। এই ঝড় তোলার দায়িত্ব গণমাধ্যমের। সুতরাং সমস্ত প্রতিকূলতাকে পেছনে ফেলে দেশ আজকে এগিয়ে যাচ্ছে। দেশ, রাষ্ট্রের, মানুষের এই সাফল্য কাগজের পাতায় আসতে হবে। কাগজের পাতায় শুধু হতাশার চিত্র যারা তুলে ধরে, সেই নৈরাশ্যবাদীরা রাষ্ট্রের লাভ করে না, তারা ক্ষতি করে। অবশ্যই সমাজের চিত্র পরিস্ফুটিত হবে, ব্যর্থতার কথাও পত্রিকায় আসবে, সমালোচনা হবে, কিন্তু সাফল্য গাথাটাও প্রকাশ করতে হবে, প্রচার করতে হবে।
The anniversary of the newspaper was celebrated by cutting a cake on the occasion. President of Insurance Companies Association and Private University Association, Sheikh Kabir Hussain, publisher of the daily Dr. Chaudhry Nafiz Sharafat, Chairman Nazrul Islam, acting editor of the newspaper Chaudhry Zafrullah Sharafat, and journalists were present. Professional organizations in the country protested the issuance of an open letter by foreigners to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina calling for stopping the ongoing trial proceedings against Dr. Mohammad Yunus under labor law. They said such a letter is a threat to the sovereignty and judiciary of Bangladesh. Professionals said Dr. Yunus has taken the shelter of international lobbyists to save him from the justice of the court, which is regrettable. They said the country's conscious citizens won't allow unnecessary foreign interference in the judiciary. Professionals also termed the letter unwanted and undesired. Dhaka University Teachers Association formed a human chain today protesting the issuance of an open letter by foreigners calling to stop the ongoing trial proceedings against Dr. Mohammad Yunus. Dhaka University Chancellor Professor Dr. Akhtaruzzaman, Pro-Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Maqsood Kamal, Professor Dr. Samad, President of Dhaka University Teachers Association Professor Dr. Nizamul Haq Bhuiya, and General Secretary Professor Dr. Zinat Huda addressed the human chain. Speakers in the human chain said the open letter to stop legal proceedings is anti-law activity. They allege that Dr. Yunus is interfering with the judiciary by appointing paid lobbyists. Dhaka Elevated Expressway collected 18,52,880 Taka toll within 24 hours of the opening for traffic. A total of 22,800 vehicles have travelled through the Dhaka Elevated Expressway in 24 hours till 6 a.m. today. Of these vehicles, 90% are private cars. Airport to Bonani, Mohakhali and Farmgate portion of the expressway saw the highest traffic with 12,242 vehicles using the segment on the first day. Besides, some 2,425 vehicles travelled from Kuril, Bonani, Mohakhali and Farmgate points, while 2,892 vehicles travelled from Bonani to Kuril and 5,246 vehicles from Farmgate to Mohakhali, Bonani and Kuril. Now, international news. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan have said they discussed ways to revive the Black Sea grain deal, which Moscow quit in July. Putin said that Russia was ready to revive the grain export deal as soon as restrictions on its own exports were lifted. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said he believes a solution can be found soon to revive the UN-brokered Black Sea grain export deal, including filling remaining gaps. He said that Ukraine should soften its stance against Russia with regards to the grain deal. Erdogan is seeking to convince Putin to return to the so-called Black Sea Grain Initiative after Moscow withdrew in July, ending a year of protected exports from Ukrainian ports. Russia has launched a wave of drone attacks on one of Ukraine's biggest grain exporting ports. Ukraine's Air Force early today urged residents of Izmail port, one of the country's two major grain exporting facilities on the Danube River in the Odessa region, to seek shelter. Odessa governor later said 17 drones were downed over the southern region. Meanwhile, Ukraine's defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov has been dismissed from his post. President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced Rustem Umerov, who runs Ukraine's state property fund, as Reznikov's successor. U.S. President Joe Biden has said he is disappointed as his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping plans to skip the upcoming G20 summit in India. U.S. President said he is disappointed, but he is going to get to see his Chinese counterpart. But Joe Biden did not say when that meeting may take place. Chinese Premier Li Qiang is expected to represent Beijing at the summit in New Delhi this week. U.S. President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping may still have an opportunity to speak in November at a meeting among leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation in San Francisco. With the withdrawal comes as China and U.S. ties have continued to deteriorate in the past year. Taiwan woke up Monday to toppled trees, floods and persistent rainfall after Typhoon Haikui made landfall on the island and swept overnight across its central mountain ranges. Haikui initially appeared to leave the island, but made a second landfall early Monday in southwestern Kaohsiung before it was downgraded to a severe tropical storm. There were no reports of deaths, but destruction was seen in coastal Taitung, a mountainous county in lesser populated eastern Taiwan, where the storm directly hit the day before. Although Haikui is considered to be less severe than previous storms, reports said it felt more powerful. Haikui, the first typhoon landfall in Taiwan in 4 years, forced the evacuation of more than 7,000 people across the island, particularly from landslide-prone mountainous regions. Hundreds of flights were cancelled and businesses were closed. Now some other international news in brief. More than a dozen African leaders and some of the world's fiercest climate change campaigners are meeting in Kenya for the maiden edition of the Africa Climate Summit, convened to address Africa's increasing exposure to climate change.
It's one of the most years. In March,
Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says its ambassador to Saudi Arabia will soon depart for Riyadh to lead Tehran's diplomatic mission that was reopened in early June after 7 years.
Muslim world powers have been on opposing sides around many regional issues and faced years of
International Atomic Energy Agency.
Around 100 fishermen and locals living near Fukushima will file a lawsuit this week, seeking to stop the release of wastewater from the stricken Japanese nuclear plant, they said Monday.
To dispel any fear.
Pope Francis capped the final day of his diplomatically tinged visit to Mongolia, preaching charity with a visit to a Catholic shelter for the homeless and domestic violence victims. Scientists have developed an energy source which could allow astronauts to live on the moon for long periods of time. Bangor University has designed nuclear fuel cells the size of poppy seeds to produce the energy needed to sustain life on the moon.
Versions of those of the space shuttle. But this
Back to national news. There is no symptom of improvement in the dengue situation across the country, as over 2,000 have been infected and 12 died during the last 24 hours. A press release of the Directorate General of Health Services said among the dead, 4 were in Dhaka and 8 were outside Dhaka. 2,823 dengue patients were admitted to different hospitals across the country during the last 24 hours. Among them, 1,005 dengue patients were hospitalized in Dhaka and 1,818 patients outside Dhaka. Meanwhile, 1 died of COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The country reported 14 COVID-19 positive cases as 1,258 tested in the last 24 hours. Corona infection rate was reported at 1.11%. Now news on sports. The match between Nepal and India of the Asia Cup cricket is interrupted due to rain in Palekele, Sri Lanka. Chasing the victory target of 231 runs, India scored 17 without loss in 2 overs 1 ball before the rain stopped the play. Earlier, Nepal batted first and were bowled out for 230 runs in 48 overs 2 balls. Though the ICC's associate country Nepalese batsmen did not play the full 50 overs of the innings, but they have shown a batting dominance against 7-time champion India's bowlers. The way they fight against India, it can be said one day Nepal will be a power of Asian cricket. Asif Sheikh scored 58 and Sampal Kami scored 48 runs for Nepal. Before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. The Cabinet gives final approval to the draft of Ansar Battalion Act 2023 with a provision of death penalty as the maximum punishment for committing mutiny and provocation for rebellion. Indonesia rolls out red carpet to welcome Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin as he arrived in Jakarta to join the 43rd ASEAN Summit and 18th East Asia Summit. Outline placed by BNP for Rohingya repatriation is ridiculous. It is nothing but part of conspiracies to deepen crisis, says Obaidul Qadir. Election train will not wait for anyone. Elections will be held on time, says Dr. Hassan Mahmood. Professional organizations express concerns, saying open letter by foreigners for stopping trial of Dr. Muhammad Yunus is threat to Bangladesh's sovereignty and judiciary. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan discuss ways to revive Black Sea grain deal with no breakthrough. Nepal set 231-run winning target for India in their second and final group stage match of Asia Cup 2023. That's all from the newsroom for the moment. Thank you for staying with us.